Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo and I am here for Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai, episode 4. Last week we watched episode 3, and how do I want to do this? Do I want to talk about that first or the other? Okay, I want to talk about what happened in episode 3 first, because we kind of had a cliffhanger, like stopped in the middle of a thing, and either we're going to pick up there, because that's how you would expect that we would do things, or we're going to ignore that that happened, because that might be funny. I have no idea. But in the last week, we had 3 major sections plus the Shigeru Chiba in the beginning doing the awesomeness with the mating rituals of birds and stuff. But the first segment was photos mostly, I would say, is what I would consider the first segment of the episode. We go through all of these photos and kind of recap the events that are occurring, and we're trying to figure out who's actually speaking and who they're speaking to, and we find out eventually that it is a private eye speaking to Tamako, who wants to investigate Mariko and her involvement in the family and is suspicious and all that jazz. So we went off on that for a while. It was fun. It was strange, and I would kind of consider the private eye plus Tamiko moment to be a little bit separate from the photos thing, but whatever. And then we turn our attention from there to Inumaru and Mariko, who are off living on their own, just sort of going through their savings and spending money, living in a place and taking baths and stuff. While Inumaru is kind of living up to his name and being a bit of a hound dog, let's say. He's trying to get it, and that's weird. That's very strange. Okay. Luckily, I guess, they are interrupted by the arrival of one Murota Miyoki, no relation, well, maybe no relation to Muroto Bunmei, who's the same character with the same character design, so I don't know what's going on that front. But he's apparently a Yakuza loan shark guy, and he pops up to be, you know, a collection person and force Inumaru to give him his money. We try the good old tried and true Yuho trick, and it works, but then it doesn't because he dodges the incoming punch. And then he sort of just steps on Inumaru's head and cackles for a while, and everything fades into Dazaki frames, and that's the end of the episode. Okay. I will say that of the 3 episodes of Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai that we've seen so far, I think episode 3 was the weakest, which is not to say by any stretch of the imagination that it was weak, just that it was the weakest, partly because I think we get a smaller cast, a lot of focus on Tamiko and this random detective guy that we don't really care about, and then solely focus on Inumaru and Mariko. Mariko doesn't bring a lot to the table in terms of character yet, is more of a straight man for other people to play off of. Inumaru brings a ton with his crazy monologues and insane delivery and the ridiculously kind of fourth wall breaky things that continuously happen around him. I don't know, I kind of want to see the rest of the family again. I want more interactions between Tamiko and the rest. I want Dad back. That Dad was a fun, like, kind of a punching bag, sort of. There's a lot that can be done here. I don't know whether it will be done, and I don't know whether we will pick up where we left off or just drop it and just move along. Honestly, I don't think it matters too much. So, that's what we've got last time. This time, I want to do something a little bit different with the discussion in particular of this episode. Not exactly of the discussion itself, but of the tools that I am using during the discussion. And we're going to just try this. I'm going to try it on OVAdrive because it's kind of a weekly slot that has some viewership, but I can kind of do what I want with it because y'all know what we're doing here. We're just watching older OVAs and shows and talking about how much we enjoy them if we enjoy them. So I'm going to experiment with something. If you've been watching my videos for the last couple weeks, you know that I've been having issues with VLC, namely in discussion and going through the episode later. It doesn't really rear its head when I'm just watching through the video. VLC is perfectly adequate as a video player. But in terms of navigating a file and seeking through it and moving around, it gets a little messed up pretty quickly when you overload VLC with too many inputs. For example, if you skip 5 seconds ahead, skip 5 seconds back, frame by frame forward twice, and then decrease the speed from 1.5 to 1.0, there's a really good chance that VLC will just crash and shit the bed and just like not play anymore until you close the whole thing and reopen the whole thing and lose your place in the video and all that jazz, which sucks. It's just no fun, and it's understandable. It's not the exact intent of this video player to like accurately seek through files and stuff, which isn't easy to do anyway, especially with MKVs, but that's kind of beside the point. So what I'm going to do, and I've already done most of the setup for it already before I started recording this morning, is, and there are steps involved in order to do this. So I don't know if I'll be doing this for all shows, but for those shows where it's pretty frequent that we have an expectation that there will be things to frame by frame, or an expectation that there will be things that we want to go back through a few times. Like we want to go back through it and like hear the audio and see how a cut works, and maybe frame by frame it and figure out how the actual frames are put together and all that stuff. So a show like Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai, where as far as I can remember, we've paused in the middle of every episode, and every episode there have been tons of things to go back through and re-notice and figure out and just be shocked by and awed by. I think it's a perfect test case for this idea. And the idea is this. I am just going to import the video of Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai into my video editor, DaVinci Resolve. And part of the reason this is a test run is because I don't really know how it's going to work. I have a sneaking suspicion that running my video editor while trying to screen record my video editor might not go that super well, because it does use up a shite load of RAM just to run the damn thing, which is part of the reason why VLC has trouble skipping through tracks a lot, right? Part of that is that you have a certain amount of that file that you've got loaded into memory that you can skip too quickly, and everything else you got to go back to the drive and go and get more of it. So that's a part of things as well. But the goal will be to pull open, once we finish the episode, to pull open the file in my video editor, and I've already done this beforehand. Like, I went and I converted the file that I have to an MKV, and I extracted the subtitles to it, and I threw them all into my video editor. They're sitting in a timeline, and I just have to go and open the editor and switch what my screen is recording, and then we'll have that. And the reason that's cool is because it's super, as long as it doesn't get fucked in terms of RAM and stuff, it's super smooth in terms of frame by framing and moving through the episode. There's no like limitation on how you're skipping, so you're not like skipping in 5-second increments where you're just gonna miss stuff in between. It should be better all around. We'll see. And just pay attention to it when we do get to the end and the discussion. I'm sure I'll talk about what we're doing as we're doing it for funsies. But I think that should be fun. And then it'll also be maybe interesting because we can, there are occasionally times during shows where I'm like, wow, I really wish that I had just like a moment to try and mess with this, with the way that this scene is put together, and like re-edit it into something different. And I don't know that those will ever come up, but if they do, and I have the tools sitting right in front of me, it's more likely that I'll be inclined to go and do that and maybe be able to show cool things that I'm thinking by actually editing the file and showing them to you, which I think would be really neat, right? Okay, so that's my set of thoughts on why I'm going to do a different thing in the end portion. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll figure it out. But that's about it. We've got an episode of Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai, 29 minutes, sorry, of insanity and absurdity is all that I can expect from this, and I am excited. So, let us watch it. All right, I've got episode 4 of Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai up and ready to go. It is sitting at 0 seconds. There will be 2 versions of this reaction. You can find a picture-in-picture version with the video up there, linked in the description, and a timer-based version up on YouTube. If you would like to do a syncy thing and sync up your own copy of this episode with the timer-based version, you are welcome to do so. Just get your copy ready because the beep beep timer countdown will be coming at you now. And I just remembered that I wasn't doing the timer-based versions for Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai, but instead putting them up as a full inline thing on YouTube with a timer as a secondary. So maybe ignore me, but if there is a timer, then it'll go here. That's not a bird. Wait. The sun. Yeah. Boop. Birds. That's not a bird. Wait, Roadrunner. It's an ostrich? What? Okay, so running away is our thematic thing, probably. Why the screw? Oh, that's why, I suppose. Burying his head in the sand. Oh, there's that too. Okay. Pretending things aren't a problem when they are. Through the map. What? Suddenly Zelda? A Link to the Past? Wait, no, this is earlier. This is earlier. Dragon Quest? Something like that. Something like that. Shit. I think I've seen this game speedrun. That a game's done quick. Wait, what? Really? Is that true? Okay, adopting a family. Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that's dad. Who's the hostile ostrich trying to steal our sons, though? Not Maroko, right? And, I mean, it wouldn't be one of the Morotas, right? So... Alright, I'm interested. Okay. Train. Where are we? Oh, hi, Tamako. Dressed in white, not in blue. Looks pretty empty, pretty middle of nowhere-ish. Is that the detective? Yeah, okay, so she's traveling with him now. Festival? Some kind of traditional music. He's carrying the thing. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, okay. Will it fit? Okay. And ignored. Ah, she's doing great. He is not. Sea Baths Station. Wait, who's that? That's a different guy, right? Wait, is that Dad? That's not Dad, right? Who is that? Wait, is it? It's not, right? Okay. Drink Coke. I wonder if we will see Muroto Bunmei. No shit, Maruko. You look like a sexy puppet. That's a weird thing to say. I wish I had not said it. Ooh, oh. Wait. Does he just have a baby grand on a beach? He's got a microphone. He's singing his own fucking. Oh my god, the character acting. This is the same guy who did the weird warpy cuts earlier in that previous episode, right? The face guy who is also part of ping pong and stuff. It's gotta be. Oh my god, they're just playing with the shape of him. Reminds me of the Seven Dwarves. The way they, like, move when they're dancing and walking. Oh my god, this is amazing. Why isn't this just a music video? It's glorious. Nihiru. That's a lot of coke, dude. I'll give the rhyme to you. That was amazing. Not talking about, I mean, the singing was good, but that's not what I'm talking about. Just the animation and character acting on that whole bit was amazing. Oh, jeez. Oh my god, he's on a leash now. Oh. Murota's just keeping him on a leash. He's making him work it off? Like you. Again with the character animation, what the fuck? Can we get Muroto Miyoki to meet Murota Bunmei? Uh-huh. Right? Why does your company have a shitty ass corn cob stand? No, absolutely not. Except that I think Tamiko's on the way. What's it all for?
ライトでスポーティーなアルバイト感覚の軽労働。爽やかな汗に彩られた二人の夏の日々。取り返しようもなく過ぎゆくか犬丸と丸子。
Put the foot back, put the foot back, put the foot back.
少なくとも
Yeah, there we go.
若き干物を暗い青春のドラマだけは避けられるとそう思ってやってきたの。こんな寂れた海水浴場の犬小屋同然の浜ジャーでもろこし焼き続ける日々にどんな物語が可能だって言うんだ。
未知なるものの訪れ、あるいは新たな設定による斬新的な展開に物語の可能性を探ろうとする思想が
You mean like all fucking manga and anime ever?
始まりがあって展開があり、そして必然という名の終局に至る物語の形式はただそれが語られ享受される局面においてのみ偉大であるに過ぎない。真に生きられる物語には資源も展開も終局もない。そこにあるのは強固なロジックの無限の反復、ただこれだけだ。この
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Oshi. What the fuck? How do you keep doing this? How does the show keep doing this? Just going from absurdity to just the hardest hitting, most scathing critique of the zeitgeist of media at the time. Like, that's still highly relevant now. What the fuck, Murota Miyoki? Okay, so I feel like there's another gag to this bit that I'm missing. Something like meta breaking. But I'm not sure. I was waiting for the foot to come back down just because it's an element that we're expecting, and it yanks him hard enough that it bonks him in the face, makes his eyes pop out, and he bleeds everywhere because it's ridiculous. Okay, avoid the bleak drama of that and the bleak drama of a young man who lives off of her. What kind of story begins instead with roasting corn cobs? So this is the initial question, and it's a rhetorical one, but Murota chooses to answer it literally because he always does that. With roasting corn cobs in a shitty-looking place, yeah, rusty grid by a booth stall that looks like a doghouse. Okay, there's our impassioned plea, and that opens the door for our dialectic of sorts. The desire to look for a different story that begins with a revolutionary development. Ignited by a character appearing from nowhere, or by a new situation, or by the appearance of some power, in reality usurps the possibility of the story itself. And this antithesis is unintelligible to me. Fuck me. This is some legitimate media theory. Oh my Jesus. I need to write this line down. Because it's extraordinarily good. And also just because when it's broken up across 3 subtitles like this, it's harder to grasp it. Because the final clause of it is related to the first clause and less related to the middle clause. Well, I'll write it down and I'll tell you what I mean. Okay, we don't have the complete argument yet, which is fine, because we know that he's going to keep going, probably, after this. But up to this point of the infinite repetition of inescapable logic, actually, that's not true. Up until, like, this point, I get it. I think. Sort of. But it's complicated. Because this is really fucking complicated. God damn it. Okay. So, the full initial statement is, the desire to look for a different story that begins with a revolutionary development ignited by a character appearing from nowhere or by a new situation, in reality usurps the possibility of the story itself. If we remove the confusing clause from it, which is the central clause, which is just examples, then this sentence becomes, the desire to look for a different story that begins with a revolutionary development, in reality usurps the possibility of the story itself. That is to say, that waiting for something big to change or happen prevents the story from being ongoing. The story's already occurring, likely. But are we talking about this in the meta level of a narrative scripted for a show, or the stories that we all live out as people, or the stories that we live out as characters within this show? I don't know. And more importantly, what the fuck does this do in terms of like a self-indictment of the show itself? Because Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai itself is ignited by a revolutionary development, literally a character appearing from nowhere and a new situation occurring, which in reality usurps any possibility of a different story about these characters, right? Like, what? I don't know. So part of the element that I'm getting from this is this idea of, like, if you're waiting for something big to change and that to be the signpost of the beginning of your story, you're an idiot. Because that's not how it works. And it's also really interesting to me that Inumaru pleads with him and says, what kind of story would begin by grilling corn cobs? When Inumaru as a character is probably the most aware of the like boundaries of his story because he crosses them constantly, right? So he should be the one who understands that the story began when Maruko arrived, but instead he's focusing in on the corn cobs as the element of the beginning of his story, when the story's been ongoing for 3 episodes. We're on the 4th. So there's weirdness going on here. There's weird and fuckery going on. And then we move into, and this antithesis is unintelligible to me, which is essentially just a value judgment that the state of things is not good. And then he moves into talking about stories with beginnings, middles, and ends are valued and viewed as great stories solely because they adhere to the outline or structure that is expected of great stories and are not actually stories. So I don't know where he's going with that one, but I'm excited to find out. I'm sorry for pausing for so long on this one. I find these initial lines fascinating. I'm sure that will get more confusing as we move along, or maybe things will open up and it'll make more sense as we move along and get closer to a point. But this is a really interesting just thing as a thesis to lay out there about the desire of a particular type of story that prevents you from living your own other kind of story. And I think if we wanted to, we could take that and elaborate pretty heavily on like a life lesson sort of way. You know, if you're constantly waiting for one particular kind of opportunity that you think is the only thing that'll get you started, right? I'm waiting for my big break, right? Or I'm waiting to get picked up by an agent or something, whatever it is. Whether, you know, I write a ton of articles all the time, but I've never published any of them. I'm just waiting for somebody to like stumble upon my blog and offer me a job. Are you fucking stupid? That's not how this works. Start writing a story. But I have a feeling there's more to it. So let's allow the show to take us on this journey. Weird. A tale worthy to be called a great story. The infinite repetition of inescapable logic.
この荒廃した海水浴場のこの犬小屋同然の浜茶屋で来るはずのない客のためにもろこしを焼く日々の中に
Which is kind of waiting for Godoi.
可能性を見出せないとするならここがお前の物語の終わるところだたとえこの店に客が訪れることがあってもそれは同じロジックの反復をただ確認する契機であるに過ぎないそのことを忘れるんじゃねえ
だとしたら俺は一体何を根拠に俺自身を演じるべきなんだ
簡単なことさより劇的なるものを求めてお前の得意技だろうが
そしてあんたのなおじいさまお客様よ
It's Tamako? No.
かしこまりました。
That
氷レモン
guy.
でございますね。おじいさま、氷レモン一つ。
レモンいっか
お前がやらんか
おじいさまをいじめないでください。私がやります。
Oh my god, Maruko.
あら素敵なとこじゃないの
Seems like the whole gang's back together now, doesn't it?
のよさっさとしなさいよまったく
Holy Jesus.
ただいま
へえそうなのここがあの大洗海水浴場なのね家族向け海水浴場のメッカそして離れ離れになった家族が再会を果たすという伝説の浜辺
I'm sure that's not
ここが
relevant.
その大洗海水浴場なのね
お客さんなんかの間違いじゃないですかクラゲの大発生とともに客足も遠のき今は訪れる人も絶えて久
Is she not Tamako?
海水浴
Am
場
I just super
この
confused?
地に集った家族たちの
I'm not, right? That is Tamako, right?
週末の浜辺ですよ、ここは。
Okay.
いいえ、間違いないわ。間違えるはずないじゃないの。犬丸。
Oh ho ho ho.
そしてそこに通りすがりの客を
Darling.
装って佇んでいる
あなた。
お待たせしました。
Ah.
あなたの妻の
Apollo?
民子です。あなたの母の民子です。ただい
Ma.
ま
Yeah.
帰ってまいりました。
And lift off. And fade to black. Okay. Okay then.
なんだバカ野郎。
What? Fuck you, dog. Hi, Marco. In blue. Blue Roko.
聞こえます。潮騒の底から語りかける過去のささやきが寄せては返す人生の荒波に沈んでいった悲しい家族の物語が繰り返し回想され退職を重ねたフィルムのようにその面影を失った生涯にも決して輝きを損なうことのない幼年期の一コマがあるように、あるいは支え合うことに疲れた男女にも互いの横顔に出会いの時のときめきを見出す夕べがあるように、家族の歴史にも私服に満
What's
ち
she
た
doing
夏
with
の
her
日の
hands?
記憶が刻み込まれているものなのか
Does
もしれ
she have
ませ
prayer
ん。
beads? Or is that just wind?
日差しの下、甲高い声を上げてはしゃぎ回る幼い息子。花のように開いたビーチパラソルの下で、それに応えるたくましい父親の笑い。
Okay, so this is just the way that...
魔法瓶の冷えた麦茶を差し出す若い。
No, I don't know what
やが
this
て
is.
訪れるであろう父と子の相国、夫と妻の検体の時も知らぬげに、幾百
The early days before things. Okay.
夏の訪れとともに数えきれぬほど繰り返され、その翌年もその翌年の夏も繰り返され続けた家族の至福の光景。訪れる人も絶え、潮騒のつぶやきの中にありし日の家族の情景を封印した思い出の浜辺。家族が家族であった時代の記憶が寄せては返す水浴の浜辺。ようこそ大洗海水浴場へ。
Thank you for the introduction to the scene. And the strange background audio of a crowd that does not exist.
母さん、タミコ。
元気にしていた犬丸。
母さん。
おやつれになったわね、あなた。
He sure does.
おいおい、終端部はそのぐらいにしてもらおうか。
Yeah, y'all haven't met, have you?
さんですな。
Cha-ching?
私、
有限会社吉
Oh.
本金融の室田文明さん。
That was not his name.
蛇の道は蛇、バックがついていらっしゃる。まあそれなら話は早いってもんだ。
A thief to catch a thief?
息子さんの猪丸君はそちらのお嬢さんと合わせていわば人質ってやつでしたね。
Oh.
無論いただくものさえいただければお返しできるわけですが。
Alright, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't want him.
娘はともかく息子を返していただくわ。そのためにいいえ、すべてに決着をつける
Again,
ために
ends to
こうしてやって
stories.
きたんですもの。
But you'll fail.
タミコ、実はわし。
己は黙っていい。家を出てから4ヶ月と2週間、私はただ虚しく時を過ごしていたのではありません。あなたや犬丸の目を覚まし、よもたの家に元の秩序を回復すべく、
Oh.
この娘の正体を暴く努力を重ねていた
And
の
her
です。
identity
その
is...
成果を引っ提げ、こうして戻ってきた以上、
Do it again.
今までのように
Do it again. 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 Focus again.
許されないわ。
Do it.
真実を見極め事態の収拾を図るためにもこれ以降の進行は不詳このよもた民子が仕切ります。
Damn it. Alright, what's in the box? Is it pictures? Or something? A time machine? I don't know. What the fuck?
昭和62年5月、青森県八戸市の小早川家に道下長男の諸子を名乗る少女が現れ、同日より同
Whoa.
月20日、道下次男の養女として
So she's been doing this for a while, you think?
次男夫婦口論の末、別居、後離婚。
So she's a homewrecker.
同時を伴って出奔、現在に至るも生死不明。
昭和63年1月、東京都福生観光編で死亡した動画スタジオの経営者布山裕二42歳の葬儀場に同志の少子を名乗る少女出現。その場を大混乱に陥れ、そのまま逃亡。同年3月、盲腸肥大症で自宅療養中だった名古屋市在住の声楽俳優柴山茂を
These are very specific medical conditions for no reason.
看護中だった内縁の妻、見舞いに訪れていた愛人を巻き込む激しい口論となり、興奮した同志が布団の上で抱っこ。40日間生死の境をさまよう。
Oh no!
北九州小倉。同年10月、沖縄県石垣島。
同
年11月には北海道苫小牧。翌2月、サンフランシスコ日本人街。
What's next? Oh my god, the press conference!
この謎の少女の訪れるところ、破壊と混乱が渦を巻き、彼女を受け入れた過程は文字通り。
What if they're all different ones from different timelines or something?
離婚、出版、一家離散。
There are the fart jokes again. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
それがこの少女の正体なのであります。嘘だ。マルコに限ってそんなでっち上げだ。陰謀だ。
発言は私の許可を得てから行うように。
All right, Judge Tamako. Okay.
彼女が血縁詐欺師であると、天才的家庭小町であると、そう仮定したとしてですね。ではあの男は私が手にかけたあの室戸文明なる人物は何者なのでしょうか。マロコが近未来からやってきた孫であるという
Then why the hell is Moroto Bunmei here?
彼がタイムパトロールであるという事実をも否定することになるが、それでよろしいか。
Wait, that's not a okay, that's right. That guy. Fuck. Right?
室戸文明なる男こそ実は彼女の共犯者に他なりません。近未来からタイムマシンを買ってやってきたなどというとてつもない設定に対する疑惑をもっともらしい企業を作り出すことで無化し、その強硬性の隠蔽を図る。およそ信じがたい前提をさらに信じがたい状況の喪失によって覆い隠す手口は、これまた
yeah, okay.
上等手段であり、競合を演出する心得の商法であります。
Perhaps.
なお、有限会社吉本金融に紹介したところ、同社に室田文明なる人
Right,
物
because
は
his name
存
is
在しないという事実が判明したことも
Murota Miyoki.
その場で申し添えておきたいと思います。そう。そこでそして時代の推移を眺めてるあんたの答え。
山田犬丸君。
はーい。今回の一連の出来事は
He's a different character now.
悪質な茶番であると、虚構であると、すべてが我が家に家庭崩壊をもたらすための
Which it is.
あざとい演出だとするならば、
Sort of.
ではなぜ先ほどよもたけの人間が一堂に会し、束の間の再会を喜ぶ、すなわち家族のちぎりを確認し合う一幕があり得たのか。
Ah.
これは明らかに彼らの目的意識に反することであり、矛盾であります。その点についてはいかが。
We're just going for the middle fingers.
結果論。彼らの筋書きになかった私という人間が介入した。
Actually, that's fair. Which brings back into play the parts about the. Alright, Dad. What?
そうであったとしても同じことさ。すでに状況はあんたの言う彼らの犯罪、家庭崩壊の企みを成立させやしない。
So they can't reach it, so there's no harm because the situation has been changed?
マロコが俺の孫じゃない、赤の他人だってんなら、血のつながらぬ一人の男として俺は堂々と彼女に迫ることができる。
The most logical thing. Oh no.
女のドラマとして俺と
It
マ
would be
ロコが
great.
結びつくことになれば、 そこから新たな家族の物語が始まるんだ。それがなぜ家庭崩壊のドラマなんぞであり得るんだよ。
え
それだけ
え
じゃない。マルコは俺の親父であるあの男にとっても娘になる。ひ孫と娘の違いこそあるものの、家族であることに違いはないんだ。この新たな設定が受け入れられない理由なんか
So it
も
would
ない。
result in a net increase in family.
この物語から弾き出されるのは
Only the detective boy. And mom. And mom. Hi, birds.
バカな話さ。
Back to yellow.
今さらマルコという非現実的存在を否定しようと肯定しようと、あんたに残された道は出番を終えた役者としてこの舞台を去るか脇役としてとどまるかの選択でしかないんだ。作詞作に溺れる。あんたは自分の仕掛けた罠にはまったんだ。
Alright, what's gonna happen when she eclipses behind
家
him?
族の葛藤劇にあんな部外者を招
Will she come out the other side different?
でも彼女がその展開を拒否したら。
するわけがないさ。
No. Oh, she fades.
強引な設定で始まり手詰まりを重ねてきたこの物語に、それ以外の展開があってたまるか。
そいつはどうかな。
Is that
お前は一人重要な人物の存在を忘れている。今まで何度となく語られていながら今の姿を見せぬある人物。
and Moroto and you.
登場と同時にこの物語を根底から震撼させることになるだろうある人物のこと。
Moroto.
もったいつきやがって。それは一体誰のことだ。
And whose voice is that?
この男の名は
臨時ニュースを申し上げます。3日前の8月15日、千葉市郊外の郵便局にメタルヘッドのドライバーで武装した中年男が侵入し、現金500万円を強奪して逃亡した事件について、千葉県警は犯人を幕張市の無職、よもたきねくに40
Dad? What's in that bag you've got?
本当かよ、おい。
ここに来るところを誰かに見られてチクられたんだな。
Dad?
もうじきパトカーが来るぞ。
逃げましょう、ひいおじい様。
Okay, Morocco.
今度こそ一緒に犬丸おじい様もひいおばあ様もさあ早く。
タミコ、犬丸、仕方がなかったんだよ。これしかなかったんだよ。
どうする？
He just takes it off.
ホンダベースエキスマキナだけど、しょうがない
Yeah, it is. Oh my god.
なんでまたそんな結論になるんです？今まであんた方何を話してきたんです？今さらそんな
This cannot be allowed.
意味ないじゃありませんか。
Okay, oh right, he's all about Reed.
意味なんて
I forgot about
そんなも
that.
の初めからありゃしないさ。
No, there has not.
ほいじゃなぜ？
The story has been senseless from the
それ
start.
が
家族だから。
And there's the reason. Holy shit, it's like the end of an old school bit where they all end with a line. It's kind of a punchline to the whole thing. Spotlight comes on. What the fuck? The calm before the storm. So there's a storm coming. What the fuck? Oh, waiting for Godot. While we ED out, I'm gonna look up the summary of Waiting for Godot just to try and draw parallels if there are any. Because I think that there's some parallels.
罪集団となり果て逃亡生活を続けるよもたけ一同。追い詰められた彼らを待っていたあまりにも凄惨な物語。
Okay. I'm just gonna let that pause and continue reading stuff about Godot. Oh, actually, at the same time, just during the same cut, I'm going to swap over to DaVinci and swap to my video editor so that we've got the thing that I'm changing for the discussion thing. Okay, cool. Huh. Well, this is interesting. It's not quite the exact parallel that I was looking for, but while DaVinci's still loading up, I want to just read you this portion from the Wikipedia page on Waiting for Godot because I think it's kind of relevant. This starts as a quote from Norman Berlin in a tribute to the play, written in autumn of 1999. Because the play is so stripped down, so elemental, it invites all kinds of social and political and religious interpretation, with Beckett himself placed in different schools of thought, different movements, and isms. The attempts to pin him down have not been successful, but the desire to do so is natural when we encounter a writer whose minimalist art reaches for bedrock reality. Less forces us to look for more, and the need to talk about Godot and what Beckett has resulted about Beckett, has resulted in a steady outpouring of books and articles. Throughout Waiting for Godot, the audience may encounter religious, philosophical, classical, psychoanalytical, and biographical references. There are ritualistic aspects and elements taken directly from vaudeville, and there is a danger in making more of these than what they are. That is, merely structural conveniences, avatars into which the writer places his fictional characters. The play exploits several archetypal forms and situations, all of which lend themselves to both comedy and pathos. Beckett makes this point emphatically clear in the opening notes to film. No truth value attaches to the above, regarded as of merely structural and dramatic convenience. He made another important remark to Lawrence Harvey, saying that his work does not depend on experience. It is not a record of experience. Of course you use it. Interesting. I think there's like a lot of relevance there. Relevance in terms of a philosophy from a creator about the abstract and about the irrational, which is exactly what what's his name, Tanuma Bonbei, one of the Mays, the detective one, goes on about. I forgot for a period of time that he's the one who's obsessed with reality and realism, which makes a lot more of his conversations make a lot more sense. But this whole first off, the idea that something being so stripped down forces us to look for more into it and to interpret more. This idea that less forces us to look for more is cool. I also think that this idea of ritualistic aspects and structural conveniences and exploitation of specific archetypes is throughout all of Gosenzo-sama. Okay, I think we are set, so let me get set up here. Okay, so there's that. Let me get rid of this and the effects library, give us a bit more space, and expand this up a bit. I think I should be able to get rid of the inspector as well. Now, and can I pop out the player is the other thing. Okay, I can full screen it. So we don't even really have to, like, worry. Let me see. Do those subs kind of show up okay? They kind of do. It's not the best. I can... Hopefully that's good. Okay. And then... Boom. Okay. Cool. So we start ourselves off. We have the sun. And, of course, there's a bit of a pun with sun and sun. So that's something. But it's not a lot. And then, wonderfully, I can just speed things up really fast. Highly elevated appearance. This is fun. It's very Roadrunner-y. Ooh, I can just mute from here. Okay. There we go. Okay. The ostrich guy is insane. And we get the, like, whirring motor in the background. Oh my goodness. Alright. By stealing. Oh. And again, this has to do with fathers. So a father whose children have been taken away, which we'll find out later in the ostrich bit, who gets by stealing, has a shameful habit of burying his head in the sand and pretending that nothing is wrong. Okay. And then puking up a bunch of bolts for... I don't know what happened here, but okay. What game is this supposed to be? I don't think it's linked to the past. I think it's something else. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's fun though. We animate this entire thing with the ridiculous looking little ostrich figure people. What the fuck? All right. Then we have our opening sequence. This, again, feels super distinct and weird. We get just, like, this very far away... It's like somebody's listening to traditional, like, shrine dance type of song type of thing on a radio somewhere in, like, a station booth a block away. Okay, we can't hear it yet. He appears... Yeah. And that sets kind of a tone for the whole thing. And then we've got this sort of, like, she walks normally, he does goofy things going on. There's a dynamic there that's just wonderful as he follows her. Yeah, and tumbles. And there are a bunch of instances in this episode specifically where like, gags occur at the last possible second of a scene. Like, that's one, he kind of stumbles a bit as he pushes this away. Whoa! And then there's one where Dad slips down the stairs, but only after most of his body is already gone, so we just barely catch it. Those are fun. Okay, and then we get sequences like this. These feel Oshii to me. They feel like a less serious, less dramatic, more tongue-in-cheek version of the quiet scenes in the Pot Labor films. And it's good. Okay, more of the same. Her walk is always so smooth looking, even if it's weird and janky and jerky. It's so amazing. And what is this guy doing? He's like messing with her hair or something? What? What is this? Oh, or is he pointing out locations? It's just weird because of the angle. Yeah, he must be going like, you just go down this way and make a left and okay. Okay, I get it. The way that the characters move in and out of shadow is just constantly good. It's constantly really solid. Unless they want to fuck with it and not make it solid. I don't know. And then here's that dynamic again. He's out of focus in the back of the frame, but he's framed so that he's the focus of the frame. You know, like, she's on an intersection of thirds, and he's on an intersection of thirds. But his is more interesting to us, even though he's out of focus. It's weird, and it's cool, and it's clever, and it fuck. This takes craft to make something like this work. This looks really simple, and it's not. So, I'm just continually impressed by Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai. Okay, away she goes. Screech, screech. Alright, Misaki. Dad arrives. Let's see the gag with Dad falling. Alright, he wipes himself off. Looking chubsy. I wonder what that shirt says. I don't know. That sweater he's got. This shot also feels very, very serious Oshii. Yeah, you could insert this shot with a less funny looking character into any of the Pot Labor films and not feel weird about it. Just somberly looking out at the waterfront, trying to figure out shit in his own head, then very distinctly grasps the important case that he's carrying with him, that is clearly of great importance to him, and then sort of steals himself, and then he's an idiot, so he walks like an idiot, or a penguin. And then down, and then down, and then down, and then he falls. There's also the goat noise when he falls. I don't know why it's there. I guess it's sort of a thematic callback to the scene where he and Inomaru ended up in the bath and we're just like, wah, ooh, 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 moo, you know? But he falls here. And then at the moment that he's actually off screen, we get a meh. Why? I don't know. It's just to have some kind of audio thing that tells you, yes, that was a joke. Yes, we know. Shit. It's just like if you watch a shitty YouTuber, they'll always have some like, haha, bling, bum bum, whenever a joke occurs. Yeah. It's just like that. Except that I have to imagine that Oshi's like, oh, directors always do this thing where they make a joke and then they put a sound effect after it. So we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to use sound effects that don't make any sense, and that'll be fun. I have to imagine that's the way that this played out. Like, that's how this came to be the thing, isn't it? It must be. It must be. All right, Burbs and Coke. Oh my god. I have to level with you. I completely forgot about the song. I completely forgot that there is an entire insert song animated music video for Moroto Bunmei singing the Patrol Dog of Time or something. I forgot. That's how much insane shit is going on in this show every minute. Because immediately after we have this performance, which is the craziest thing that I've ever seen, we immediately move into, like, scathing discussion of the nature of storytelling. And then from there into absurdity. Okay. There's the Moroto Bunmei song. I wasn't ready. Okay. So we immediately know, because we associate Coke with Moroto Bunmei, that that's what's going to happen here. This cut is pretty cool. There's something funky going on with her hair. It's got a sense of, like, shape and form to it. Like, wait. It's almost like it's made of silly putty. You know? Yeah, we're doing the double exposure things. 1, 2, 2 plus 2 over 3, 3 over 4. Nope. 3, 4 over 5. Okay, it's the same strategy for a lot of these cuts. That's cool. I will say that the joints are always weird. The joints are always the weirdest thing about the character designs in the show for me. They're just strange looking, but simplified, and it makes perfect sense. Ochi-sama. Great cuts of her just doing stuff. Splash. There's a smear on her hand there. And just right there. Weird. Why is that there? Oh, I guess because it would be moving so fast going past the camera so close. Weird. Okay. So the piece of music is non-diegetic, right? None of the characters act as though this piece of music is actually occurring. And Moroto Bunmei doesn't actually appear in the episode, which does make me wonder about Murota Miyoki / Yoshioka, or whatever else they called him. How do we enter into this song exactly? It starts here. Starts there. And then we pan down from the sky. The fact that it starts here, it starts after she says the line, right? Yeah, it's non-diegetic. It's not a part of the universe of the show. It can't be. Because you'd have to know the context of this scene within the show for it to make sense for an audio track to begin there. Okay, I know this is weird, but consider the point at which we start the music. We have no inkling that Moroto Bunmei is playing at this point, right? Remove from your mind all of the knowledge that is going to filter into your brain in the next few seconds. At this moment, what do we know is going on? Well, if we were recognizing him, we know Dad just arrived, we know Tamiko's on the way, we know that there's a Coke can, which makes us think of Moroto. He's on our mind, but there's no reason to think he's here right now, or that he's playing. And we know that Maruko is here, and Maruko is screaming for Inumaru, and that's it. So, at this moment, we have silent scenes of her going and playing, scream for her grandfather once, and then we enter into this very, like... It's almost like this is the sexy shot? I don't know. But the beginning of the music occurs immediately there at the scene transition. That's important. That's important. It means that logistically, there was somebody behind the scenes choosing to put it there, as there always is in a piece of media, right? But if you're making a piece of media with a piece of music occurring in scene, like if this were not Moroto Bunmei playing a piano on the beach, but instead an actual, like, busker playing at a different shop down the way, then their music would start in the middle of the scene, or probably already be going when the scene begins, right? Because the character in universe doesn't care about the events that are being portrayed by the camera. So the character in universe has no reason to align their music with the scene, right? So the fact that the music is aligned with the scene tells us that it's intentionally put there, but then it's a fake out because it's intentionally put there, but then it's happening in universe, but it's not. And it couldn't be, because he's sitting with a baby grand on a beach with the waves crashing over its feet and a microphone that isn't plugged into anything. It doesn't make sense. But that's why it works, because it's ridiculous. Inescapable repetition of whatever that bullshit was that he said. Also, the animation of the insides of this piano is, like, spot on. Freaking awesome. This is not CG. There's no CG here. You can't just, like, make one hammer and copy paste it. Like, I guess you kind of can with cells if you wanted to do it that way, but I don't think that's what's been done here. I'm not sure. Actually, the shadow on them changes. Look at this one. See that? They're redrawn. They're redrawn when they move up. The angle's different. The top is different. It's not copy pasted. They just drew them all really well. Okay. There's only one mistake, which is that the line of shadows down here, these shadows should move slightly, because the keys move up, so the distance between them and the shadow that they're casting changes, but they didn't change that. It's the only, like, little flaw, is that one of these shadows should move when those keys do, but it doesn't. Who gives a damn? It's perfect. Okay, and then he starts singing this really somber ballad thing. We get a title, right? Okay, we get The Guard Dog of Time by Moroto Bunmei. So, in show, this is being titled as an insert. It essentially is a music video. And it has lyrics. So that just doubles down on the weird meta-ness of this. Alright, I'm gonna look up the song just to see if it's a parody of anything notable. Before I do, things that we're going to talk about. One, the actual song itself is cool, and the voice actor / singer does an amazing performance. However, that is completely overshadowed by all the character animation. The little, like, intrinsically funny gags that are done with the way that Bunmei expresses his emotions through movement is like nothing I've ever seen. Some portions of it look very much like that one artist, the one animator, who did some of the crazy face scenes that we talked about a couple episodes ago. Specifically, a scene where Inumaru is just like, and I made fun of like the gummy mouth that he's got going on. Same kind of idea going on here. I don't know that it's necessarily the same animator. It looks very similar, but I wouldn't be surprised if some portions of it were. But it's so tongue-in-cheek. Every element of it. There's one sequence where he like lowers his head and continues to emote with only his shoulders and hunch. There are multiple scenes where he emotes continuously with just the flippity flap of hair on the top of his head. The stuff his mouth does during this entire sequence is absurd. We're gonna have to go through it all for sure. But I do want to know who's singing it, and I want to look up the song just in case people are like, oh, it's totally a parody of this famous song, which has relevance because blah. So give me a sec. Literally pulls up nothing. I type in Guard Dog of Time Marota Bunmei, and I get Guard Dog Wikipedia, the Guard Dog test, customer reviews, Guard Dog Alexa skills, the best Guard Dog breeds for protection. Nothing. So people have forgotten about the existence of this amazing thing, which is crazy. Holy shit. Okay, let's let this play out, and we'll just go through it and look at every piece of insanity that occurs here, because this is bonkers. Again, it's okay. The facial expressions that Maroto Bunmei makes are not human facial expressions, right? They're too weird. They're too exaggerated and strange and animated. However, I've talked about this before. Humans have mirror neurons. We have the ability to see another person doing something and imagine ourselves doing that, imagine what it feels like. When Maroto Bunmei does this, you know exactly what that feels like, to let a syllable go and just leave your entire mouth like kind of hanging open at the end of it. Kole. It's bleh, bleh. You know that feeling. And so when he does that, you know what he's doing. Kole. Bye. Flippity flip. His neck shrinks and extends like a foot over the course of this thing. What? And it's intentional. Like, it's not like he's off model or anything. He's absurd. Bankai. The way his teeth kind of round out into almost like an orb here is so fun. As he turns, he goes, Bangai. It's like there's just a ball right here that is his mouth. And then here we go. He drops the head and emotes entirely with his shoulders. And it, like, you understand it. Just snap into place here. So goes boom, boom, and then only his mouth closes. And at the same time, his hair thing like goes back, so it's just like rotating around. No. He goes from here to like here, and Then we get the like above shot at some point with just Coke cans under him and the waves crashing. It's so beautiful. Unironically, it's hilarious and also genuinely good. So that reminds me of a little bit of a line that we had in that Waiting for Godot article. The play exploits several archetypal forms and situations, all of which lend themselves both to comedy and pathos, appealing to the emotions of the audience and eliciting feelings that already reside within them. I think this does exactly that, right? All of the feelings associated with a crooner, with a good singer singing a ballad, seeing a music video of that, it's all here. But it's also funny. How is it both? Well, how can it be anything but? Like this show, 4 episodes in, literally 2 hours of content that we have watched of Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai, minus a minute and a half for the OP, minus a minute and a half for the ED. Each, right? So a bit less than 2 hours of total content. And we have multiple, both explicit and implied, like, philosophies of media and communication. How? How? Okay. And the little camera movements throughout, too. Like, we're up here, move down here preemptively before he drops his head. And then, if I'm not mistaken, we're sort of seeing like a reflection of him in the water as well. Wait. Yeah, because it goes away when that water is gone. Look at this little portion of light blue right over his left arm right here, okay? So you see how there are 2 left arms because one of them is a shadow? Once the water recedes, one of the left arms is gone. So not only are they doing 2, but they were careful enough to remove the one that's a reflection when the reflective surface is gone. Fuck you. Also, all the Coke cans change color completely when the thing washes over them. So I don't know how that was done. It must be a colored layer, right? But then there's stuff that's being drawn on top of it as well. So it's not just a colored layer or a filter. So how's it being done? Why does it shift there? Okay, it's a steady pull out. Steady, 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 steady shift. It shifts into its shadow. And it doesn't go back. Is it a mistake? Or did they decide that at a certain point we're going to be too far away and we can't effectively draw the reflection as well? And so they just stopped. But they moved it over to where the reflection was instead of moving the reflection over to it. Huh. Okay. Wow. Wow. All right, here we go. Making corn cobs. Getting called by Maroko. And Inamaru embodies the dog in this episode completely. He's literally on a leash. He goes to greet her just like a puppy. You know? Fucking idiot. The whole cut is amazing. The weight that he's pushing against this rope that's around his neck. The springs that he does. Boing. The way the shadow follows him and gets smaller as he lifts off the ground. How he gets pulled back by the rope and it like whippity whips around because that's what ropes do when you stretch them. How he keeps pulling and pushing against it. And then our boy comes here and just steps on it, right? Boom! Weird sound effect for that, as always. Alright. And we exposit the entirety of the situation in just a few seconds because we're awesome like that. Also, yeah, the rope collar that's around him is absolutely not something that would prevent him from moving. At all. You can just take it off. A bit of a pun about dogs. More continuous, amazing character animation goes on throughout all of these scenes. It's kind of at the point where like I can't even like point at it every time. It's just if there's a character on screen and they're talking, they're gonna be doing awesome shit. Because the talent making this show is absurd. Re-exposit this. Okay, for example of that character animation. It's even more fun going backward. I'm sorry, that's so fun. Look at his hand. Look at all the ways that shit warps throughout this. What the hell? Oh my god. Okay, so he pulls. Okay, he steps on it, forcing him to the ground again. Right? Yanks him. Stands him upright, tips him over and onto his hands and knees. Boom. Smacks his head against the floor. Ow. Tries to get back up again. Starts getting back up again in a more steady position. Sitting up backward like this. Steps on it again. Boom. As he's pulling back, trying to prevent getting the same thing happening again, right? So he's holding onto it. Gets pulled by that. And clonks his head to the ground exactly the same way again. And then is laid out flat by it. And there's a bounce to it. Gung, bam. And then bounce again. Going. Alright, and then we attack the underlying assumptions. So the underlying assumption that Murota that Marota is presenting is that you make corn cobs to get customers, so that customers buy the corn cobs, but the underlying assumption is that there are customers, and there aren't any. There aren't any customers here, dude. So we yell about it. Hoping that this would bring new developments in the story of Mariko and me. Oh, my dreams, my goals, the things I wished for. Our summer would be moistened with sweat. Yes. And the whole time, the foot on his throat is a presence in the scene. And he's kind of like bucking it off every time he gets really impassioned. Okay, and then it finally leaves screen, and we're waiting for it to return. It does in wonderful fashion. Where he just smackifies it. There's no change to the voice line. He just doesn't stop talking at all. There's nothing. So it's like the opposite thing, right? It's like the opposite of the weird goat noise after Dad falls. There should be a sound effect, or the voice actor should, like, act out being strangled for a moment. They shouldn't be able to say lines during the point where they're being jerked forward and a knee being driven into their face. But Inomaru is not limited by the screen. He's giving a performance right now, and the show must go on. Okay, and then comes the line that we talked about already. It didn't really clear up as we moved along in the episode, but I do want to keep it in mind. The desire to look for a different story that begins with a revolutionary development, ignited by a character appearing from nowhere or by a new situation, in reality usurps the possibility of the story itself. I would just want to sit on that for a while. And by a while, I mean a couple weeks. And let that sink in a little. Maybe write it down somewhere else so that I'd make sure that I keep track of it. Because this isn't something that I'm just gonna click on. I need to give this one time. Alright. I will just do that. I will admit when I am defeated by a set of lines in a show, and that is exactly the case here. Because this whole set of lines is bonkers. Okay, we remove the backgrounds, which is nice. And start going pretty hard with his own flippy dippy. Does nothing but depict itself. Infinite repetition of inescapable logic, no beginning, middle, or end. It seems like we could achieve that if we wanted to via time travel. Ensure a completed loop that ensures that Mariko is born by them and becomes herself and comes back and teaches them how to be a family and all that jazz. If in this very moment you cannot foresee your possible story, well, then this now is the end of your story. Wait, what? Shit, I'm gonna have to write the whole thing down. What kind of story begins instead with roasting corn cobs on a rusty grid by a booth stall that looks like a doghouse? The desire to look for a different story that begins with a revolutionary development ignited by a character appearing from nowhere or by a new situation, in reality usurps the possibility of the story itself, and this antithesis is unintelligible to me. The structure of a tale that has a beginning, middle, and so-called inescapable end does nothing but depict does nothing but depict itself. That is, the structure depicts only itself. It comes to be universally accepted and thus known as a great story only from this very aspect. A tale worthy to be called that has no beginning or middle or end. That's the point. The infinite repetition of inescapable logic. That's what it's all about. If on this desolate beach, this abandoned doghouse in the middle of the desert, this dive where we senselessly keep on roasting corn cobs for customers who will probably never come, and then we have a semicolon, which is super weird. In other words, if in this very moment you cannot foresee your possible story, well then, this now is the end of your story. And if by some chance customers should arrive, this would only be evidence that confirms the loop of the same logic. Don't forget that. In this case then, on what basis should I play the role of me? Now identity is a part of things. That's as easy as could be. Aspiring to a more dramatic story is your specialty, isn't it? And then Inu responds, and after all, you, and is interrupted by Maroko. This is the most fascinating conversation to me. I need to dig deeper. Now, in terms of phrasing, there are some interesting similarities between the phrasing of some of these lines and the phrasing of some of Aristotle's lines in Poetics. Aristotle wrote, quote, a whole story is what has a beginning and middle and end. Quote, a beginning is that which is not itself necessarily after anything else and which naturally has something else after it. An end is that which is naturally after something else, either as its necessary or usual consequent, and with nothing else after it. And a middle, that which is by nature after one thing and has also another after it. And then in the world of Hegel's dialectic, we have thesis, antithesis, synthesis, which becomes immediately interesting because Morita uses the term antithesis, but he doesn't... But it's not an antithesis, because if it is, what's the thesis? Like, the antithesis needs to be something that directly contradicts with something that's been stated before. The thesis, for a Hegelian dialectic to occur here, which it seems to be the goal, or seems nominally to be the goal. For a Hegelian dialectic to occur here, Inumaru would have to actually present some kind of a hypothesis, some kind of a proposition, and he doesn't. There's so much here. I can't unpack this. I have to just leave it be, which really sucks, because I want to have... Like, I feel as though there's an epiphany on the tip of my tongue, but it's one of those things where if I push toward it, I'm not going to be able to reach it. So I just have to let it sit and settle and think about it. And I'll probably end up dropping like a paragraph in Discord later tonight when I'm like, oh my god, I get it. We'll see. So she's putting on a false voice for this, right? A little bit. A mecca for families. Yes, nobody would come here though. And then she calls him Inumaru and ba-bam! Anata! Yeah, she goes back to her normal voice. And then we get the Apollo liftoff thing, and I feel like, personally, I was expecting her to, like, take off like a rocket or something stupid, because this is here, but it's another instance of that weird, hey, let's use sound effects just for fun thing that Oshii keeps doing. So it just happens, and then we just fade to black. And it's not even like we fade to black as the ignition occurs, or there's an attempt to like make it line up or anything. It's just there. It just goes. And then as that fades out, that fades out. What? And then the dog calls us an idiot or something. What the fuck? You were so nice. You were so nice to us. Okay. Then we give Maroko her own monologue, which is beautiful and really well delivered, but I have no idea what the point of it is. I have no idea. I think she's talking about like the ideal of family, the goal that she would have wanted, like to go back and experience this. An infinite number of times it repeats whenever summer returns. The picture of the happy family renews itself year after year in summer. What? I mean, there's a tragedy in what she's speaking, but I have no idea what it means. And then the way that we end the scene, it functions like a, you know, sometimes in a play, a character will come out and introduce the next scene to the audience, as like a thing. Oh, there's an example in Hamilton. It's really early on in the play. Let me see. I think it might be the Schuyler sisters, actually.
There's nothing rich folks love more than going.
Yeah, so this is one of the many instances where I think it's Aaron Burr who does that, who pops out on stage, explains the scenario and what's going on before the actual song begins. In this case, the song is introducing the Schuyler sisters, who are going out and checking out all the dudes going to work and stuff. And he's explaining that, like, rich people love slumming it with the poor. Welcome to the more normal side of town. These are the characters that you're about to see. And that's kind of sort of the same vibe that we have here from Mariko at the end of this, with this whole welcome to Ori Beach. And then the scene opens. And there's sound effects, as though there's like an ensemble pretending that this is a busy street or something. But that's in direct contrast with the situation, because we know there are no other customers on the beach, right? Weird. And then the scene begins once the crowd dies out. A thief to catch a thief. So he knows him. Alright. Don't care about the girl. And then we start inserting this kind of stuff. It's with the intent of putting an end to this story. There's like a something to that, because there's a textual conversation with no resolution that posits a thesis or antithesis, depending on how you want to look at it. I don't think it's an antithesis, because there isn't a thesis to which it's responding. Moroto just kind of presents this thesis, which is that the worthy tales are those that have no beginning, middle, or end, and which are inescapable loops of endless logic. But I don't know. And now she's attempting to put an end to this story. Interesting. The identity of that girl. Okay, so this is fun. I'm really sad that we don't do it more. This moment when she goes, the shameless identity of that girl, and we rack focus to her, and then back. I kind of expected that we were just gonna play with that for a while, just like, oh, we can't find where the focus is in between them, or something fun, but no. She is so crazy, just in her delivery. Mo, what the hell? The humble Yomoto Tamako. Okay. So he walks over, plops the thing down. Sets up a projector. And reveals the entire environment to be a stage setting. Expectation. Number one thing that we know from the outset of this episode, the entire thing, this is a real beach. That's the one thing we know for sure. How do we know that? Because we see Mariko running in the sand and playing in the water and splashing around. So we know it's a real beach, right? So at this moment, it becomes no longer a beach. It becomes a stage setting. What? My brain can't. But the show can. What the fuck? Alright, so we go through it. Apparently, Mariko, or someone very much like her, has been through a billion different places at different times and caused a billion different problems. It doesn't really matter what they were doing. Most of the stuff that's going on there is actually just jokes, and insanity. Just, like, no, she didn't kill that guy, but had a furious quarrel with his lover, who then, because of their hypertension, had an anal prolapse. Oh, stop with the poopy humor. Stop with the poopy jokes. I rest my case. And then we just sort of bring out the microphones for press conference. And suddenly there's reverb. Okay. Inomaru the puppy again. So he goes ahead and argues it by saying that that's not possible because she has inherently brought our family together in this moment. And he accidentally knocks out the mic, which is a functioning mic. Because Howdingu. And Muroto Fumiaki does not work there. But he's given us like 3 different names so far, so I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. Now he's a different character. What the fuck is going on? And he logics through it as... if Mariko is lying about being my family, then I would bang the shit out of her and we'd have a new family. And so she would inherently not be a liar because she would be making more family. There's a net increase of family overall. And if she is family, then she's brought her whole family together, and I'm not getting to bang her. So she can't be evil. She will not destroy our family. Brilliant. Eh? And more family, right, yeah. And of course, Mom would be the one excluded. This is a fun moment. I fully expected to do something with her when she pops to the other side. What is the chant that's going on here? Is it like a funeral dirge or something? Something like that. Like a rest her spirit or similar. Pops. And we are interrupted by the announcement, which still gives us the information that he was about to convey. Reveals that Kinekuni has a shitload of money, and then everything just falls apart. Right now, such a development makes no sense at all. There's been no sense since the beginning. And now he's craving an end that's legitimate to the episode, right? Okay. We're family. Okay, so this is a non-joke, a non-punchline, non-end. And that's why it's funny. So, Tamara Banai or whatever wants an ending, specifically. Muroto Marioko, whatever, Mariachi wants to buck the confines of traditional 3-act story structure. And we kind of do both? What is this episode? How does this work? I don't know. But it works. I really liked this one. This one made me think more than the others have. Maybe a couple less cuts of craziness. Although, I will be honest, they are all made up for by the Muroto Bunmei freaking thing that he does. That's legendary. I'm genuinely amazed that if I go I'm actually really truly shocked that when I went and I googled patrol dog of time or guard dog of time Moroto Bunmei, nothing comes up. Nobody has gone and cut that portion out and like uploaded it to YouTube. What the fuck is what are you doing? Hey, Annie Twitter, Mir, get on this shit. Go share clips of this show with your followers and stuff, and like they'll think you're cool because you're watching old shit that nobody's heard of and it's amazing and there's actually stuff to talk about in it. Get on the hype train. It's leaving the station. Choo choo. Okay. I think that's about it. I think I have to wrap at this point. There are some disappointing elements of this discussion. Like, I don't think that I've handled the core things that seem to be deep and meaningful super well. However, there's an element of suspicion in me that these things that are meant to seem deep and meaningful are actually self-contradictory and are intended to fall apart upon closer examination. And intended to. That these characters are making arguments that sound legitimate but aren't. And I do get that feeling as I dive deeper into these arguments, that there's not a cohesive point to them, but there's enough thought and enough idea in them to create or to force the reader, the audience, to create their own cohesive thoughts about it, which may be the most valuable thing of all, rather than presenting a specific idea, presenting enough bits and pieces of incoherent ideas that you're forced to come up with something legitimate in order to reconcile them in your own mind. I think that's an interesting way of going about things, and I think it's a form of storytelling that is possible. I actually think that it's a form of storytelling that Ikuhara adheres to pretty frequently, that he'll create these vague jumbled amalgams of multi-ideas without explicitly trying to tell the audience exactly what they should feel or think about the characters or their actions or whatever. And that creates, I think, a deeper experience of watching an almost interaction across time and across space between the viewer and the creators, where the creator can get their point across without just teaching it by rote, and instead by showing possibilities and allowing the audience to come to their own conclusions. I think that Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai does something along those lines. However, it does things along those lines in such in a way that is so far over the line beyond absurdist and ridiculous and insanity that it's really difficult to piece out what's intent and what is, I don't know, collateral damage. Because it's just shotguns of awesomeness coming out of this show, and some of them hit cool artistic notes, and some of them hit cool philosophical notes, and some of them are just fucking weird. And I don't know which is which, but I'm having a blast trying to figure it out, and I really hope you're enjoying this weird journey that we're on as well. So we'll wrap there. I've been Teeaboo. This has been the 4th episode of Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai. It is not getting any less weird. We just had an episode that had an entire, well-done music video for a character that actually doesn't have any lines or role to play in the rest of the episode itself. What? We had a genuinely deep discussion about, the nature of narrative and story, and a discussion that works on multiple levels, whether you're considering it like yourself as the protagonist of your own story, or you're considering it from the position of a storyteller, or you're considering it from just the generic overall umbrella idea of stories and narratives in general. You can apply it in any of those if you want to. And also you can't, because it's not really a complete thought, but it's an interesting one that makes you think. What is this show? How does this work? What? Okay. Meet Teeaboo. This Gosenzo-sama Banbanzai episode 4. I really hope you enjoyed it, because I am continuing to have a blast with it. I will see you next week for episode 5. Peace.